introduce you to Jonathan Wright, who is also a fellow SIGiST committee member, as well as a testing guru. And I will leave you in his capable hands for the final talk of the day. Jonathan.
Thank you very much. So I will try and keep it really exciting and keep the momentum going, because it is hard at this point in time. However, I will add a few caveats. I've been up for 30 hours because I landed on Monday, flew in from Santa Clara, and I've just had 2 days in London doing workshopping with our exec team. So I may fall over, and I'm sorry if I do. And also there's quite a lot of content here. I think we've probably got 40 slides, 30 minutes, no problems whatsoever. I do hold the land record for, I presented with Forrester quite recently and did 2.6 slides a minute. Apparently it's a record, 264 slides I managed to get through, and 62 live demos as part of that, which is impressive. Okay, so yes, I made a slight mistake this morning when I kind of woke up and looked at the title. So I think I might have joked about the fact that I'm adding quantum whilst we were just bantering on WhatsApp group, and then I did realize that I'm presenting about it, so I needed to create the content. So as our previous speaker kind of mentioned, I had to partially leverage GPT. So, you know, a bit of a disclaimer. I did actually, for the first time, do this presentation in Expo UA last week or the week before in Madrid. That was the first time it came out, and a week before in Vegas for Gartner. So some of this content has been shown, but some of this hasn't so far. So anyway, it's an absolute pleasure to be here. I've been a member of the VCS committee for quite a while, a massive advocate of the SIGiST, probably as long as I can remember being my career, within the last 25 years. So what am I going to talk about today? Well, first of all, I want to do it in that kind of order, generative AI, so it kind of leads on from the previous speaker. Then I'm going to touch on the metaverse, which is where I'm flying out to. I did just speak to somebody, I don't know who it was in the, she's not here. I was like, oh, I'm going to go and see Tim on Tuesday. She was like, who's Tim? And I was like, okay, fine. You'll probably guess through the slides eventually. But what you can see here, which is me, unfortunately, presenting at Star West, I think, wearing a HoloLens headset, which was great for demonstrating purposes until I realized that the dogs and the animals that was still in my field of view, I kept on walking over and tripping over on stage, which was not clever. Now, I know Eurostar is literally running this week in a zoo, so kind of will keep the momentum going with the animals. But yeah, so what you probably see here, hopefully everyone's seen this building before. This is the Hewlett and Packard garage in Silicon Valley. And this is the birthplace of, in essence, testing. In 1939, they were making test equipment. That same test equipment, which they made there, which is the 200D, is ironically what we still make today. So when I go back to Santa Clara and Santa Rosa, that's where we still build that same equipment that Dave and Bill made. So yes, and where I used to live before I moved back to the Valley was just a few miles away from Bletchley. Everyone's been to Bletchley, and you can see the original work from Turing, artificial intelligence there, and it's still got the papers, so I would definitely recommend going and visiting if you get a chance, right? So a bit of scene setting, and I wanted to kind of start with Web3. Does anyone know what WFT stands for? Anybody? What's the future? So I kind of thought to myself, well, I'll put this in as a scene setting to kind of say, well, what are all these things that, you know, they're talking about with spatial computing and large language models and all of this fantastic stuff. And I borrowed my Gartner slide from this in Vegas a couple of weeks back. And I thought, okay, I'll steal their stuff and add in kind of overlaying the three topics that we're going to talk about today. So most of us are probably very familiar with Web 1.0 because we've lived through it. The pain, and when I started in the 90s, and it was all client server, desktop, whatever. You know, this hasn't gone away. This is still there. And we've gone on this journey to, I suppose, Web 2. And now we're unlocking this next capability, which is coined Web 3.0. It's not a replacement. It's just an extra set of capabilities that may or may never be realized, like blockchain, right? Which thankfully I'm not going to talk about. But spatial computing and all of the other great stuff that's on here is new opportunities for technology. And don't worry, even though I am going through these slides, you can access them all online. You know, we're going to make sure we share them with you. So you're not going to miss out that you can't really read what it says there. Even I can't at this rate. But it just talks about opportunity. And I wanted to set that as a bit of context setting. So today we're going to start off with the elephant in the room, obviously ChatGPT and large language models, following on from the previous speaker. And this is actually a McKinsey stat, which I'm not quite sure I agree with fully. However, if you do want to, and I will share this material with you, there's a Goldman Sachs paper that was just recently released on generative AI. And actually, I believe that much more, talking about 35% of daily activities could potentially go away. Checking your emails, doing all that repetitive grind items. It's not going to replace testing. It's just going to augment our capabilities to do things that were boring and get rid of them. So we've all seen this quote, AI will not replace you. A person with AI will. And we'll probably go through some of those use cases. So we were going to give away the BCS book for artificial intelligence and software testing. So a number of us put together a book, what was put through the BCS press last year with Rex Black. And really this came out of the back of the ISO 29119 part 11, which the BCS was part of reviewing, which is on artificial intelligence and software testing. I'm going to give the book away for free on a QR code on the next slides, so you can download it, but we were going to give physical copies. We'll do it next time. So there's the QR code, just in case you want a copy of the book for free. It makes it a lot easier. And I did actually get my generative AI to read the entire book out, which I was partially slightly bored of playing around with technology. So there's a Bitly link there as well. But yeah, if you take this and the Bitly link in the corner, and you can download it whenever you get a chance. So obviously Adam couldn't be here today. I think he's still in Barcelona. Is he Barcelona? I don't know where he is. He was supposed to be here in person. I was in Barcelona a couple of weeks ago for the Women in Tech event, which was amazing. And yes, tried to catch up with him in person. So we've heard all this kind of buzz around the idea of generative AI. In actual fact, ChatGPT wasn't really the flagship product. You know, we've also seen the crashes. So Palm 2 released this week, which is the non-billion pound write-off Google's or Alphabet's bottom line based on the failed demo they did live. But there's lots more, and I'm quite sure why that's, I don't want to see that. But really what's happened, which is still there, okay, I can't do anything about that. What you pretty much would see in that corner is that actually really what we've started seeing in the last couple of years, which is why it's exciting, is it's surpassing human cognitive capabilities. Now, it's not saying it's better than us, but it's able to do these activities to a similar level that we're able to do. So there is a lot of excitement in this area, but I'm going to go through the use cases that we've explored and see how they apply to testing. My favorite app at the moment is CatGPT. Any other cat owners here? Fantastic. If you go to cat-gpt.com, literally you can ask it anything. It goes off and finds memes on cats that explain, you know, quantum computing or networking. I did think about doing that, but instead I didn't bother. And then this was, I think, was the last India trip, which I'm back out in 2 weeks. I don't think they've got GPT capabilities, but they do great tea, so I'm fine with it. So yes, you can start with CatGPT and work your way up. Is kind of where I position it. So I was another Barcelona. This is this November. Again, you can't really see it. But what this is one of our Israeli partners who does brain to input. So this is literally low-level brain waves interpreted and then put onto a mobile device. Now you might say to yourself, isn't that neurolace and all the stuff Elon's been doing? But actually, in the last 2 weeks, Cambridge has published the brain to image, which is where they put people in MRI eye scanners in essence and say to them, think about cats, and it will show you the image, what they're thinking about. Slightly partly worrying. This slide is also just in case you want to cheat the whole GPT game in one slide. the spoiler alert, because I'm going to go through quick time, is obviously the legislation will pretty much write off ChatGPT by the end of the year. And what you'll see is the emergence of things like Alpaca, which is the MIT variant, which you can bring down into your own environment. And then my R&D team use Dolly. So you can bring your own large language model down and then train it against your own documentations and sources of knowledge. So we use it for McLaren, and McLaren literally feed in new braking specs, and out pops on the other side new gherking scenarios that it wants, new scripts, new scenarios, everything. So that'll save you a whole stack of time. Auto GPT will change everyone's life. Unfortunately, Gartner was talking about auto ops in very similar to DevOps, QA ops, whatever ops you want to put in. But what Auto GPT does is takes the short-term memory problem off using something like a generative AI and then solves it at a mission statement. So in essence, it's running thousands of threads trying to solve a problem in a brute force kind of way. So if you say, I want to launch my app and I want to run all the security, I want it to be on this platform, I want to do all the chaos engineering the guy next door was talking about, it will keep on trying until it can actually solve it. Maybe it'll take 100 years, or it might be finished in a few hours, but it's quite interesting. But all the ones you see there, I'm going to pretty much demo to you what they look like, which is the capability on the left-hand side in record time. I also mentioned my land speed record with Diego. This is actually an event that's on August, free event. And Diego's talking about generative AI. I mentioned this because Diego started talking about Turing bots way before everyone got so excited about ChatGPT. So about 2018, 2019, he published a lot of material about how these Turing bots would have, in essence, roles across the entire SDLC. But a lot of advanced thinking, and he presents all these thinking within that webinar. I just asked him a few questions, so it's not that exciting. But there's no link to it yet, apparently. I did ask him today. But anyway, interesting stuff. Now let's get into the fun bit. So hopefully everyone knows who Jason is. So he wrote a book with James Whittaker on how Google test. He was the founder of test.ai, which were in essence the leading in this kind of AI thinking space. He's a good friend. And, you know, I use him throughout this because he's a great example. I know the previous speaker said, is it better than a tester? And the answer is no. Can it pass the ISTQB course? Yes. Yeah, it's a large language model, right? It's very easy at dealing with any memory retention kind of issues. And, you know, it scored 77%. So this is a little bit old, this link, but this is kind of all the questions on the syllabus. Say it's ChatGPT, done. So don't use this for cheating at the exam just in case you get to that position. The second thing is obviously we know all the stuff that's been in the media, right? It's outperforming medical doctors, it's past the bar. It even started citing legal battles that never actually existed, which is part of the referenceability of ChatGPT and its weakness. But when it comes to retention of knowledge, it's great, right? So yes, here's all the great things about it. Now let's get into the nitty gritty. Hopefully everyone's seen this as well, which is the first ever AI employee in the UK in Hull, the tech center of the entire world. And so this lady here now works for, I think it's 20 companies. Quite a good idea. I had partially thought of it before. And then I thought to myself, well, wait a second, I did. So everyone's seen this website before, this person does not exist.com. So you just go onto it, say, I want to pick a gender, an age, whatever, it'll generate in real time different images that in essence, you can't tell the difference. It's just NVIDIA's CUDA engine behind it. My 2015 attempt of this with Microsoft Cognitive Services, which I stuck on LinkedIn, this young lady who actually is connected to just over 50,000 people. And she has conversations with them every day and has for the last 7 years as a recruiter. It actually exists. It runs Lewis's linguistic platform behind and talks to people. And then when people hit on it, it typically breaks the workflow engine and comes to me. And then I look at the people in the testing industry and go, yeah, that's not very nice. But anyway, so this isn't new. This is kind of old tech, should we say, chatbots, all this kind of technology. Which they LinkedIn weren't very happy about that. The last BCS event we ran, we had a fantastic speaker around the EU AI Act, which hopefully someone talked about today. I was told I weren't allowed to talk about it. No. Okay. So in essence, it's like GDPR on steroids, which says, you know, you could potentially be fined up to 6% of your annual turnover if, for instance, I stuck ChatGPT to do a diagnosis for patients and 1 out of 1,000 unfortunately died. Now, a medical doctor has a lot lower ratio than that, but still that company could be fined for and be responsible for the AI that they implemented. So many warnings that shall come along with it. And, you know, for those people who are interested, if no one's talked about it, I can send you last year's full deck, which is incredibly interesting. And this will probably kick in September, which is why I think we'll start seeing what we saw with all the pause going on. But literally people go, wait, I'm potentially giving sensitive IP data. Should I be doing this? And then Italy, everywhere else following. So lots of exciting stuff. So I did this blog quite a while ago about, well, what does it actually mean for software testing? And I'm going to go through that exact journey, which the previous speaker talked about, which was, okay, well, what are the use cases apart from making me look quite cool as an image? Which I've noticed, I'm double bubbled here. I've got me as a Jedi as well, which is great. Part of it is I said, okay, well, what are the standard use cases? Can it go from the point of going, I'm going to write the requirements, I'm going to write the code, I'm going to write all the tests, and I'm going to deploy the application. And yes, of course it can. And, you know, is it good? You know, garbage in, garbage out for a bit. But I thought I'd show you this end-to-end flow quite quickly because we're going to talk about the metaverse. We're also going to talk about quantum computing. Everyone excited about quantum computing? No, me neither. We are doing quantum computing, but you know, it's not my favorite, mainly because I can get a PhD in quantum computing. So I took Jason's example and my friend Alan, who I did a book with, the experiences in software automation with Dorothy Graham. And Alan literally this week posted an article about ChatGPT. And if you've not got his blog on A/B testing, go and subscribe. His podcast is amazing. 172 episodes. It's a lot. But yeah, so on the left-hand side, Jason was doing some trolling on Alan and said, does stock price directly affect quality? And it was because Microsoft stock was plummeting. And so I thought, okay, I'll just ask ChatGPT, write me some Gherkin script on how I go and check the stock price of Microsoft stock. No problems. So Paul next door, my furry friend, did a whole stack of series of tests, talks about this on YouTube if you want to go and watch it. But in essence, what we did is we took the Gherkin script and automatically generated a model out of it. And I happened to be on the ISO 29119 Part 8 model-based testing standard. So this was partially exciting for me. And the interesting thing about this is if I look at it from like a 3Amigo perspective, if I decide this isn't right, I can change this. It will then update the requirements, update the code, and it'll keep everything intact, which is fantastic. So there's my model. I've told it how I want to go off, check the stock price, come back. The next step is Copilot, which is the only paid product that I feature in this deck, which is Visual Studio Code. You literally write, I would like to go off and find Microsoft stock. It will then create some code. All it's asking for here, by the way, is just an API key, which for some reason it can't find itself, which AutoGPT would solve. And then it creates a Panda chart with all the time series data of Microsoft stock's price and gives you a Panda data frame. So one line of code, one requirement line has generated a working, in essence, working app-ish. But anyway, there's the I'm not very good at development, so that was the end of that. The next one is obviously writing Selenium, which is incredibly easy. with the exception that it writes an unsupported version of Selenium. So you have to update some of the CSS tags. It's actually quite easy. But once you've done that, you can pretty much generate your Selenium UI scripts, your Postman scripts, your Rest Assured scripts, your Zap tests, your security tests, your JMeter tests, everything you want. And then, of course, once you've updated the CSS locators, which are break, you can just run it. And it will test, it'll do your UI tests, API tests, exciting, and come back with some validation. The demo's not that long, but in essence, it just goes off and checks to see if what the stock price is. So, okay, so it can create an app, it can create the Python code, fine. And the next step, which is completely unrelated, but for some reason I put it in, a slightly different day this morning, 30 hours. But the next step is actually, it can also see things. So the real point of ChatGPT-4 was the ability to actually see me write on a napkin, I want a joke app, and it write the code, create the app, launch it in the App Store. That was the demo, what everyone saw. But obviously for many good reasons, they didn't want to start uploading images to it because of privacy and slight concerns about what's happening. But in essence, if you've probably heard of DALL-E, again, it's a free tool. If you want to use my API key, feel free. And what I'm doing here is I'm searching over here for 2 dogs on a beach. And then I'm asking it to generate 2 dogs on images that look like 2 dogs on a beach. And then I'm in essence just comparing them both. So what happens here is it pumps out a whole stack of images. And then if I highlight those images, in essence, it's 2 dogs on a beach, completely generated through AI. I'm going to show you a slightly better example in a minute where you can actually deploy this in your own environment with easy diffusion, running locally on my machine, so local host, and I can literally pass it. I would like a picture of a bag. It will go off and just generate all the images. And this is like 3 steps if you get really bored and you want to do it. What's interesting about this demo is I'm using easy diffusion to generate me some images and then asking Microsoft Azure, look at those images and tell me what they are. And then I'm asking ChatGPT's API to take the tags that I took from the start, which is a picture of a castle, compare the images that came out with the response from the computer vision, and then compare them both. So in essence, AI testing AI is the 30-second easy version. And it works. And literally, it's a few lines of code. You can do this in Python, don't need expensive tools. It's all free. So, go and have a play with it. And it doesn't need to be cloud-based. You can run most of this in your own environments. Anyway, so that's exciting, partially, I think. And what you see over here is you've got to take everything with a bit of a pinch of salt in the sense of when it looks at this, it's only going to give a certain level of confidence, just like those dog pictures. So it's actually going to come back and say, I see what I see, which is a whole stack of cloud, sky, landscape, painting, grass, outdoor, with about a 70 to 80% confidence rating. So it's not flawless, but it's pretty good and that's Azure's computer vision. The previous one was Google's computer vision, which again, you can just sign up for, it's free. And then AutoGPT, which is the real mean, horrible kind of take over the world Skynet thing, where you literally give it a mission statement and it will go off and run up as many threads as it needs and your credit card to go off and solve a problem. Go in there. Git repositories, download code base, it'll understand there's a missing Java library it needs to pull out. It will go off and try and solve every single problem. Slightly worrying, but very, very powerful and very easy to use. Just go to auto-gpt.com. Anyway, you can type into Google. Incredibly powerful. So, what is the future in an easy slide? Hopefully some people have seen this. This is Runway, again, completely free. Just type in Runway. And you can literally say to it, like someone said here, I would like a video for 2 minutes talking, and I'm going to give you the style, which is supposed to be Moulin Rouge, and it's supposed to be cats. Sorry, I'm a bit obsessed with animals, it seems to be. And this is completely generated by taking those 2 mission statements and building a video from it. Now, the quotes are that we could potentially be seeing movies coming through that are fully generated. Now, if you look closely, you'll of course see they've got 5 fingers and 9 thumbs, and it's very weird. But this is a free product that just goes off and does it. So we're starting like, but it gives you an idea of the capabilities that are out there today. Concerning. So that was a bit of generative AI. Now the metaverse, which is my my next week task. So hopefully some people will have maybe seen this. So this is, if you use Teams Mesh, which goes into public release this month. So you pay for a slightly more premium version of Teams, and you no longer have to turn on the webcam, which is amazing. And this recording is with some guys from Source Labs. I was actually on another meeting with another with the actual customer, and my avatar will respond. It'll be shocked. It'll look at my camera and it'll look at whether or not my facial expressions. Also tell if I'm talking, which is slightly worrying. And so, yes, we know it looks a bit cartoony, and it isn't the same as what Facebook have got. And you probably saw from Apple's launch last week, they can scan your face, which is you just need a LiDAR thing, go like that. And, you know, you put the Apple headset on and it will create a full rendering of you, and you will appear as a person. And, you know, have more kind of expressions than the actual Zuckerberg, which is quite impressive. Yeah, it's getting better. It's close. So I kind of joked with the Tim thing earlier on, but these are the devices that I've been kind of testing quite recently. And of course, we can see in the top left-hand corner our new candidate, which is the Apple Vision Pro, or exactly the same headset as Ready Player One, depending on, if you've read the book or watched the movie. But in essence, all of these have a lot in common. A lot of them are XR devices. So you saw me wearing the HoloLens, going to San Diego to see those guys, and then Wednesday I'm seeing those guys, and these guys. I do see them, but I don't really see them that much now. But yeah, so let's show you what some of that stuff looks like. You told that a few minutes, so I'm going to try and get through some of this. So what we typically do is we have robotic arms, which is cool. Environmental chambers. We stick the headset into these environments, and we pretty much move it around like a human does, and we validate the experience. You probably saw from the Apple product, but also the Meta Pro and the HoloLens all use eye tracking. So the ones that I've got in my bag at the moment, you just look over to the right, the glaze will highlight the item you want on the screen, which is in essence just that mission thing, what you get when you drag down your iPhone, and then it selects it. So it's eye tracking, and it's also eye tracking for payments. I'm sorry, Beth, I'm slightly.
No, it's okay. You've got a couple more minutes.
That's all right. So anyway, so eye tracking, body tracking, hand physics, all these things are built into these kind of next generation headsets. Now, everyone's probably laughing at the $3.5 grand, but in actual fact, these devices like the HoloLens, what you're seeing, which is running Windows embedded in essence, these products will probably not go live. These will be used purely for enterprise use cases of maintenance. HoloLens is obviously sold as a military tool, which is impressive in the sense of, if you Google it, because I'm not allowed to obviously say anything because I'm under NDA, but they literally overlay the battlefield. They've got drones filling in the GIS landscape, and people just see straight through walls. So as an enemy is walking through the wall, it seems slightly unfair. They kind of, have Superman powers in essence, or Superwoman powers, depending on how you look at it. Also, we're doing the dog cat thing, because it's there. The next one, which is a slightly new one, is obviously, this may or may not be one of our customers. I should really bleep stuff out. But they have lots of different feeds. They have heads-up displays on the windscreen. And of course, we look at things in stereo. We don't look at things in a single image. So we're able to test, in essence, what looks like a very two-dimensional image, but it's actually wrapped around, because obviously you're wearing it in a VR headset. Not a very exciting one, but we're just showing that if you want to spend £20 on a BBC Micro off Amazon, which don't buy anymore because I generally need to order some more, you can pretty much drive anything. It'll create Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, the whole thing. And it's great fun. You learn Python and it's just drag and drop. So